Awesome, awesome, cool. Yeah, no, and it's amazing to go right after that presentation now because we're actually going to Scotland with Wi-Fi Tribe for the first time ever. We were really excited to go there just before the pandemic, and then obviously everything happened, and unfortunately we had to cancel that trip. So now when we put it back up to our community, so Wi-Fi Tribe is a community of now over 1,000 digital nomads, remote professionals who are traveling. Once we put it out there to them, it was one of the most exciting destinations for people because, yeah, there was just a lot of anticipation for it. So, yeah, just really cool to be able to see these destinations. And obviously also had the chance to get really inspired by everything that everyone's shared so far to start thinking about new places that we could maybe go to that we haven't really had the chance to think about before. So yeah, I'd love to super quickly try to give you guys an intro on, I guess, myself and what Wi-Fi Tribe is about, just purely because it is a little bit relevant to obviously what I'd like to share with you after that, because I will be talking about what makes a digital nomad destination attractive to this target audience and what it is that basically that we can all do about that. How can we bring more of these people in? So some quick background on us then. Wi-Fi Tribe has been running now for the last 6 years. So I've been, I'm one of the co-founders. I've been around with the community for the whole time, really, actively living that lifestyle. I've been on 50 month-long trips throughout this time. So literally, permanently there, visiting family for Christmas, and that's about it. So that's led me to, I think I must have lived with probably between 400 and 500 people, always for the duration of a month. And also personally interviewed over 1,000 people to bring people into the community, right? So you can kind of already hear that I've got this obsession over building communities and and also the marketing side of things. So really how to market this lifestyle as a whole and how to market destinations to our community of people, because essentially we have to say, hey guys, we want to go here. Do you guys want to come along, right? So that's really a lot of what we do there, right? So let me get to the part that's actually relevant and useful. And please feel free to drop any questions and comments on the side as well if there's anything you're curious about. But yeah, in short, I'd like to start off with maybe talking briefly about what some of the up and coming destinations are, because this might help to just get an idea of what is currently trending, right? So you might have already noticed some of these. Some others might feel a little bit new to you, but Gran Canaria is clearly a place that's been up and coming. Madeira, Tbilisi in Georgia, Bansko, Bulgaria has had quite a reputation that's been increasing over the last 2 to 3 years. In general, I will say what we've noticed within our community and the wider digital nomad community is that Eastern Europe is gaining a lot of traction, and that's really exciting. It's really interesting for that sort of to shift away from just Central Europe. Then in Guatemala, Antigua has become increasingly more popular, and I would recommend to just keep an eye on Dahab in Egypt. It's one of the recent ones that we've been to, and I believe that it's one of the ones that we'll pick up soon as well, right? The other thing to note there maybe is also that there is a combination of trending continents and a certain seasonality to the movement of where digital nomads are going in the world, right? So it usually always starts with Central and South America being sort of the bigger hubs, because as people enter that kind of lifestyle, it's often a place where they'll start. And that's also where most of the digital nomads actually ended up during the pandemic. So that was an area that was very well traveled in that time. But now that's changed, and nomads have been moving more over to Europe. A lot of the movement has been going into Central Europe, so kind of chasing that European summer. And what we've found over the years as well is that the European summer and the European autumn are quite popular. So people will come over here for that time, and they'll often actually leave the Americas for that. And now just starting to also see a lot more traction back in Asia. It's just because it's now opening up again a little bit more after the pandemic, right? So those are just some of the sort of bigger picture things to keep in mind. Part of it, again, is seasonality based on weather and the time of the year. But other things are just, it's also this flow of where trends are moving, right? And of course, in what we do, we have to be so acutely aware of how these trends are shifting, because we need to know, in terms of, when I say we, in terms of Wi-Fi Tribe or our organization, we need to know where people want to go before everybody's kind of flowing into those places, right? Otherwise, we don't do well in terms of the success of the destinations that we go to as well, right? So Having said that, that's hopefully just a nice little sort of introduction to understanding where we're seeing some of these, bigger picture shifts going. But then I'd love to also talk a little bit about the things that are a tad more tangible, maybe, right? And that's that question of what makes destinations attractive to digital nomads, right? And I want to break this down into three things because there are sort of three distinct elements to that. I want to cover first the basics. Then what is it that actually attracts digital nomads? What's that pull factor that a destination can have? And then ultimately, the third, kind of the last moment, is what establishes a destination as a digital nomad destination, right? How does it turn into this long-term thing? So let's hop into maybe the basics first. The obvious stuff, and a lot of the things that we've been hearing so far already, is weather. That's a major one. Cost of living. That's a pretty big one too. Lifestyle. And there, very often, people are looking for either beach or city life. And luckily now, people are also starting to look at more, being out in nature. So that's sort of a newer trend that's emerging as well, right? Then internet, right? And honestly, there's a difference between perceived quality and speed of internet and reality. Honestly, digital nomads think that they need very, very fast speeds, but anything between 10 and 20 MB is going to be plenty as sort of an average around the city. But if you can show faster internet speeds as an average in the city, in different cafes and restaurants and hotels and that, it's going to definitely make a digital nomad feel, and that's the perceived part, feel like there is the infrastructure and the stability for the internet there to be able to do work well. And then, of course, also safety, right? So I'd say weather, cost of living, lifestyle, internet, and safety are maybe the basics, right? Those are the things that kind of need to be there for somebody to consider that as a destination. Then the more interesting part is asking ourselves, what is it that actually attracts digital nomads? What pulls people? What is that pull factor? What pulls people in, right? One of the things I'll mention here is that concept of being Instagrammable, right? So maybe a city or the cafes or honestly the weekend trips, the places that you can go, being out in nature, seeing all of these wonderful things, the castles, like all of those kind of things, the sites that a country has to offer. And ironically, what I'm explaining here or describing here is not what necessarily makes this place a good place to work, right? It's everything that you do when you're not sitting in front of your laptop. But those are the things that people will put on social media that other people will see and that will make people go, oh, I really want to go there, right? And then the next question is, can I work from there? And as long as the answer is yes, I can, that place has the ability to attract digital nomads, right? The next one, I think this one is incredibly important, is social proof, right? So some people call it the fam trip, the familiarization trip. It's a big word. Some element of influence, right? Something or someone that goes, this destination is a destination for digital nomads, right? And that, if that works out well, will lead you to the third element, which is a hype or a trend around a destination, right? So if you can manage to create a PR or a marketing splash in a destination, so much is going to happen, because that's going to start to kick off a chain reaction, essentially a spiral effect where if it's sort of a big enough splash in the beginning, then it just keeps on carrying itself forward, and suddenly the destination becomes a place that just digital nomads say, yeah, this is a place that nomads go to, right? And once that's happened, once that splash has been effective, very often what will happen next is that destination will start to move up on a website called Nomad List that kind of ranks destinations against each other. And once it's high enough up in Nomad List, then it starts to become a little bit more mainstream, because a lot of people go there to say, okay, is this destination a place that that I should be going to as a digital nomad, right? And when it comes to this, I've actually got an interesting example. Wi-Fi Tribe went to Gran Canaria about 2 years ago now. And when we went there, we were working with a PR organization. They reached out to us, and they basically worked with Wi-Fi Tribe to amplify just the perception of Gran Canaria being a digital nomad destination. And that is one of the biggest PR. I think it is actually the biggest PR stunts I've ever seen for a digital nomad destination. And it was just such an exciting project to be there. They were there with cameras or filming how everybody is working on a day-to-day, and kind of actually, going with us to these different experiences and seeing the destination. If you now look on Nomad list, Gran Canaria is one of the top, it is the top actually destination on there, right? So it always had a bit of a reputation, but that's really exploded it, right? We've seen the same for Puerto Escondido in Mexico. We went there before the pandemic, and now it is one of the most exciting destinations that digital nomads are going to in that space. And I'll also suggest to keep an eye on Namibia, right? That's a destination that we've only just gone to, but as soon as we go to places, we often see that our community starts to go there, whether that's with us or after we've been there, even when we're not there. So that starts to create the first trickle. And we then obviously also do a lot of marketing for those destinations because we have to anyway. And then all of the people that are there start to post it in their social media. And then what you see is that not just the people from within our community are going, oh, cool, this is a destination that's now, kind of in a sense has a stamp of approval. This is a digital nomad destination that we should try out. But it's also that there's this much wider digital nomad audience that is looking to these organizations that kind of pioneer destinations and go to those places and asking themselves, oh, if I see this place on their calendar, maybe it's a place that I want to go to as well, right? So we know a lot of people who are just following our calendar and making their travel decisions based on that, right? So that's how you attract a group of digital nomads and then ultimately start that movement, right? Kind of start the chain reaction. The third one is what actually establishes a place. And to me, this is the last step in this whole process. This is the one where you go from a hype to something that is establishing itself as a permanent destination for digital nomads, right? So here it helps a lot to have a walkable area, right? So kind of a center that people can move around and walk around in, a place that feels like it's easy to move around, right? That often comes with hipster cafes that are, just generally laptop friendly. And I'll tell you that is even more important than co-working spaces, because a lot of digital nomads will go to these cafes and that'll become part of the lifestyle of living and working from a place, right? And then the single most important element is community, is the ability of a destination, whether that's a city or a country, to establish a long-term community of digital nomads, right? And there are pockets of places that have managed to do that incredibly well. We actually just heard recently from just a few videos ago from Sun & Co. They've done that incredibly well. They've got a strong reputation for that in Javea. Then Dojo in Bali is an incredible example of that as well. Chiang Mai has managed to get this reputation for years and years of being a community of digital nomads. And that is what brings people back again and again and again. And it gives it a lot of strength for attracting nomads. Nacho in Gran Canaria has managed to do this. He has several different formats of bringing community in there as well. And then, of course, Bansko, Bulgaria, both with the co-working space and the Nomad Fest that they have, right? But all of that, these destinations, have a look at them. They're great examples because they have somehow managed to get people to say, I feel at home here. There are other people like me here. There's community. It's active. Something's moving, right? And that reputation is ultimately what then these destinations ride on. Right. Last thing to maybe leave you with, because I think that this is obviously really relevant for Croatia as well, is I find that Croatia has a ton of potential, and it's always been really, really interesting to us as well since we started ages ago. We've been there twice now, once in Zadar and once in Split, and we're also currently considering Dubrovnik as a destination for our community as well. Right. My big recommendation, though, to Croatia and to any other country that's considering to bring in digital nomads is to come together as all of the different cities, co-working spaces, all the different destinations of that country, and work together to promote the country as a whole. Because when the country wins, everybody in that country wins, right? There's going to be this massive spillover that'll reach every co-working space, every city of that destination, right? So to concentrate that effort and budget and everything else that you have in place to just bring people into the country, promote the country before you promote a specific destination, and all destinations will win, right?
Diego, I'm going to stop you there. Diego,
yes, that's also it.
I'm so sorry to stop your stream of consciousness. That was fantastic. Can we the reason why I'm stopping you is we want to give you a massive shout out for several things. But the first thing is that our workation winners, Navi Savvy, who are in the room, saw the workation competition on a Wi-Fi Tribe stream, so we're able to come, and they won, and they're here in the room, which is fantastic. So thank you to you for that. We're massively excited that you're coming to Croatia later this year.